Hello and welcome. Get a glass or mug of some comfort to sip on as we rest here for just a bit and consider this 2019 Jdrama entitled My Story is Long, also known as If Talking Paid. This is a quirky, everyday life drama that surprised me by how much I ended up liking it. This Jdrama sails smoothly beyond its straightforward synopsis into deeper waters. I found it to be easy to watch and something I looked forward to relaxing with at the end of each day. It's a dialogue-driven drama and feels like a play at times, yet it's quite accessible and relatable. It's light on angst, yet substantive in content, with effervescent snippets of conversation that manage to linger in the mind. It's comical, yet thought-provoking. It's only 10 episodes long, with each episode nicely divided into 2 chapters, each chapter titled with a meal and a symbolic item that represents an event or activity or plot point, such as sushi and carton boxes. And I just love the ordinary, daily stuff of life quality and simplicity of that structuring. It's a story of a family in transition, thrown together, crowded into the same house, while our male lead's sister's home is remodeled. She is joined by her husband and her daughter. We learn that this all happens about 6 years after our male lead's unsuccessful attempt to open and run his own coffee shop. And this upheaval in the family living situation also happens after the death of his father. As a viewer, I felt effectively dropped right into the middle of a family's little world for a brief 3-month period of their overall story. I found it all believable, with fully fleshed individual characters. All in all, it's a well-told little arc of a story that left me open to more, for sure, yet satisfied with the story as it was developed. I thought the family dynamics were natural, spot on in terms of their healthy and unhealthy behavior patterns, moments of self-awareness and denial, small steps of growth as well as missteps. By the way, I grew so fond of that bit of stick-up bed hair on our male lead. Just one of my favorite details in this Jdrama. There is plenty of repartee and banter, griping and arguing, and laughter around the dinner table at meals, and I had a pretty enjoyable time witnessing it all. The male lead actor plays his character with great animation and humor in his body language, gesticulations, and facial expressions, and in his impressive delivery of his lines, what with all that zippy dialogue. The theme quote I've chosen for my analysis comes from one of my very favorite films, Patterson. Like the Jdrama, this is a story structured around daily, routine things, yet it also borders snugly right up against the profound. After a serious setback in the life of the protagonist, who is a city bus driver and a poet, we're given a conversation between him and a Japanese tourist who's also a poet, who unabashedly admits, "I breathe poetry." This stranger ends up handing our bus driver a lovely gift, a new blank notebook, while he says these words, "Sometimes an empty page presents the most possibilities." It's really an invitation and an encouragement to begin again, and we see the main character pull a pen from his pocket, click it into position, and begin writing. After a setback, a time of grief or loss, it can be a period of transition and finding the next thing. And this is really what this drama is about for each of the family members, I think, especially for the male lead Mitsuru. Yes, he's the most obvious, but also for the mother after the death of her husband, and for the sister in her own way, for the brother-in-law, and for the niece. Now I've got some theme images from the drama that underscore this theme of transition and the blank page ready to be written upon. Here we have our male lead, Mitsuru, as a NEET. This is a guy who's got a well-established daily routine of doing, well, not a whole lot, it would seem, according to most standards or the standards of the larger society. His pet turtle with that ironical name, Bolt, is a humorous mirror to his owner and the speed at which this guy is dealing with his transition to his next pursuit, his next thing after the failure of his coffee shop. As we get to know our male lead a little better and see past some of his bravado to the embarrassment and fear underneath, we come to see that he's really scared, insecure, and unhappy about his situation. We can maybe see then that the turtle is also symbolic of our male lead's sort of defensive self-protection posture of retreat into a shell of avoidance of his problem. When his sister demands that he clear out a room cluttered with his coffee shop paraphernalia, this is his response. We see that he's shifted it all to his bedroom and he's sleeping on top of his boxed up coffee shop dreams that have come to an end. And it's all symbolic of his slow transition process and the blank page. Our male lead is a jumble of contradictions. He can be contrary and cheeky, sometimes saying outrageous things he doesn't really mean. Salty, with a clever, quick tongue. He's proud and adept at talking his way out of responsibility or blame. He's full of bravado and bluster. Again, I guess it's a sort of defense mechanism for him. He can be infuriating and exasperating, talking his listeners into a dizzying spin with his logic. He nitpicks at others, but then he can hit the bullseye with his insightfulness. He can be warm and sincere. He loafs around, but then exerts himself for others. And we come to realize the vital role he plays in this family. At crisis moments, with his incisive comments, careful listening, and his counseling and advice. The family really do look to him and rely on him for comforting, motivating, and mediating. The apparent empty space of his current life schedule, that empty notebook page from our theme quote, is full of potential for the next thing he's going to pursue, the next dream or job or whatever, but the page is already being written upon and filling up to some extent with all the relationships he is nurturing and that are nurturing him as well. And I'm reminded that everybody moves forward at their own pace. So a little prodding at times may be helpful, but comparisons may or may not. And the in-between time stuff, it's not wasted, as it's all part of the transition process for our male lead. So just when we may be ready to join his choleric sister and label our male lead as spoiled and lazy, upon closer examination, however, we see that our male lead cannot just be summed up and dismissed as useless. He does make a superb tasting coffee faithfully every morning for his mom to enjoy before she heads off to work in the cafe established by his late father. And over the course of the drama, we see that he does make delicious meals for other people to enjoy and take comfort in when they're in need. And I realize that our male lead is so helpful in large part because he's around. He's available. He's got time for people. Here, the family is rather comically forcing him to do what they're all too scared to do. That is, to enter the other room and deal with our male lead's niece. They've all begged him to talk to her because he relates well with her, and he's the only one she'll listen to. Our male lead ends up promoting peace in the family as a whole and in the lives of individual members, although he does it in his own idiosyncratic manner, sometimes caustic, flippant, but then suddenly turning warm. The whole family wants him to find his next thing, but they've all come to see how important he is to the family dynamic just as he is. The time he moved out briefly to live somewhere else, they missed him and looked deflated and sort of lost around the dinner table. It seemed pretty clear that they all felt his absence. This scene is at a favorite restaurant of our male lead's dad. Eating this meal together, though, is a reminder of who is missing: father, husband, grandfather. It's a picture of the empty page space of grieving that each family member inhabits in different ways. This makes me think of a poem called Eating Together by Li Young Lee, where it's really about the one who isn't there at the table, in this case, the poet's deceased father. I've provided a link below in the description so you can hear it beautifully read by the poet himself, so please have a listen. Okay, this is probably my favorite scene from the entire J-drama. Here we have our male lead with his now unemployed brother-in-law in their matching gray neat suits as they lounge underneath and bask in the warmth of the family kotatsu. It strikes me that perhaps this is symbolic of the blank page, with its possibility brewing, or even better, incubating in the warmth of relationship. And here Mitsuru waxes humorously philosophical as he offers his thoughts on the promotion of world peace through the use of the Japanese heater table. He says, "Is it okay if I say something that pokes the core of the world now?" And his brother-in-law responds, "I'm all ears." Mitsuru continues, musing, "Kotatsu is a culture unique to Japan, right? I'm just suggesting a possibility. The secret weapon that will free the world of war could be a kotatsu." The relaxed brother-in-law agrees. "Indeed, you absolutely poked at the world's core just now." Our male lead goes on, "When your legs are in a kotatsu, you don't want to quarrel or fight with anybody." The brother-in-law suggests, "Mitsuru, has anyone said that you are like a kotatsu?" Mitsuru considers and replies, "Nobody has. I'm not that capable." His brother-in-law explains, "That's what I think after living with you for 2 months. It feels comfortable and very warm when I'm with you." Mitsuru says, "Thank you." And the brother-in-law adds, "But at the same time, it takes away my motivation and strength to work." This somewhat uxorious brother-in-law finds a true ally in Mitsuru, and also eventually, with our male lead's help, he finds his next one thing as well. Mitsuru takes to heart the advice this friend gives him to move forward and find a job. Instead of looking for a job that fits perfectly, she says to make a list of what you don't hate doing and just try out one of those things for a job. We then later see him writing on a blank sheet of paper his list of things he doesn't hate doing. I'm not sure if it's helpful to share this, but just in case, here goes. This makes me think of my writing process as a poet, how some ideas just come to me and catch me unawares and spill onto the page, while others percolate or incubate or collect and connect for years sometimes before becoming a poem. Some come easily from the muse of inspiration, and others through the obedient act of the will by simply pulling the chair up to the desk and working at it, playing with the words, practicing. I may not love what I've written and have a finished, satisfying poem every time, but I don't hate it, and it's all part of the process of getting there eventually. The last theme image is one of family members cheering on our male lead, telling him to do it. Each of them have been challenged and encouraged by Mitsuru, and now they are returning the favor. And it's all reminiscent, I think, of that Aesop's fable, The Tortoise and the Hare. While a marathon race is going on at the exact same time, our male lead is moving courageously forward at his own walking pace to find his next thing. Here's the piece of music I've chosen for my theme of the blank page of possibilities. The title of this piece may be translated as Romance Declaration, and the melancholy introspection of its lyrics stand in piquant juxtaposition to the upbeat pace of the music. Because of this interesting contradiction, I think it makes a good companion piece to our male lead, who's a blustering motor mouth to compensate for his inner trepidation and the way he's transitioning to the next thing in his life at a tentative turtle's pace. Listen to these lyrics and consider all the interesting connecting points between them and the J-drama, from the freezing quality of failure and the need to start over and stubborn pride, to the warmth of a kotatsu and coffee, relationships, and goals for the future. Here are the lyrics. Today, the toys I hid under the desk are mocking everything about me again. Even if I know I shouldn't say it, even if it leaves a deep scar, you are all sweet chocolate to me. Oh, but I don't want to apologize. I don't want anyone to see my ideal family plan. On those frigid nights when my body freezes up, I've got to borrow someone else's strength. Today, the love I hid under the desk is shutting me out again, like the romance that turned sour on a stormy night. Yet, no matter how harsh it did me, tomorrow I will boil my water with grace. We'll drink our coffee, my ideal fighting plan. In those miserable times, I want you to understand me. I've got to borrow someone else's strength. No, I don't want to apologize. I don't want anyone to see my ideal family plan. On those frigid nights when my body freezes up, I've got to borrow someone else's strength. Let's boil our water, drink our coffee, put some flowers up in our front window. Lying next to our big dog, our romance. It's high time I did something about this romance. It might be a little story I've tucked away in my pocket, but it doesn't matter. Always lying next to me, our romance. It's high time I did something about this romance. Thank you for being with me for yet another analysis. And now, as we go on our way, let's do our best to receive the blank page when it's handed to us, to have the courage to take up the pen and begin again. And let's do our best to stay awake, to gather the beautiful.